The actual term they use is wrong think. Guys, have you ever read 1984 by George Orwell? This is George Orwell. This is training men to not have wrong think. Wrong think is anything that promotes traditional masculinity. Baldoni emphasizes the importance of vulnerability in dating and relationships. He encourages men to be brave enough to be vulnerable and share their true feelings. Guys, remember, the male model actor is telling you to be brave enough to be vulnerable. Did it look to you, Rollo, like the people who funded the $700,000 had done their due diligence on Justin Baldoni? Do you think they had?
Absolutely not. And they didn't do any due diligence on the people that they targeted either.
Thank you. That was exactly my next question. If they're not doing any due diligence on Justin Baldoni, do you think they did do any due diligence on us, or instead assumed that we were promoting terrorism, incel culture, and violence towards women when we have never done any of those things?
I can
Aaron Clary is an
economist to you that they
Aaron
didn't.
Clary is an economist who's on a DHS watch list now because of things like this. For the majority of us in this space, this is what we teach, okay? I'm not going to say red pill specifically, but just the manosphere in general. And I'm going to include everyone in the manosphere. In general, what do we teach? We teach men should go to the gym, men should be better speakers, better leaders, better providers, and they should protect their family, okay? Protect their family. At no point do we talk about violence towards women, actually worry. It was Andrew Tate who said men who rape women should get the death penalty. He was saying that, okay? Protecting women against violence. Hey guys, again, I'm Michael Sartain here. I'm with Rollo, and I'm with Tristan, and we want to talk about this situation with Justin Baldoni. A lot of you probably don't know about this situation. I promise you by the end of this video, you're probably going to be furious like I was going over some of these situations. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to describe to you who Justin Baldoni is, what diverting hate is, what it has to do with the manosphere in general, and then we're going to talk about what happened with Justin Baldoni after that. So we're going to talk about, first off, what diverting hate is. Diverting hate is a targeted violence and terrorism prevention program funded by the United States Department of Homeland Security. So this is your government through its Targeted Violence and Terrorism Prevention Grant Program. The project aims to address the online misogynistic and extremism and prevent radicalization of men and violence against women. So again, do you guys see what they're doing here? So they're acting as if somehow manosphere content promotes violence against women. I would like to know who's promoting this violence against women, okay? Program overview. Diverting Hate was initially developed by students from Middlebury Institute of International Studies as part of the Invent to Prevent competition sponsored by the DHS Center for Prevention Programs in partnership. After the winning first place in fall of 2001 cohort, the program received further funding to expand its efforts. Key features. Research. The program conducts in-depth research on incel ideology and radicalization process, online intervention. Diverting Hate uses a network analysis and targeted ads, this is a big one, remember this, on Twitter to disrupt incel radicalization pathways. Alternative pathways. The project aims to surface alternative pathways to the community group partners, focusing on protective factors such as social health, positive masculinity, and empathy. And Resource Hub, a website, divertinghate.org, serves as central resource for research finding and resilience tools. It was funded, it got about $659,000, and this is from 2022 to 2024. That's when we're seeing this. Divert Hate supports two main priorities in the TVTP grant program, addressing online aspects of terrorism and targeted violence and preventing domestic violence extremism. The project aims to reach a minimum of 700,000 men at risk of radicalization through its online intervention and resources. So let's go over a couple of things here. Number one, what they're saying is that these men are going to be radicalized, that this radicalization is going to lead to violence against women, more violence against women. You guys notice a lot of guys in the manosphere have said that that's not cool, and also sexual assault against women should be treated with the death penalty. So it's quite the opposite of what's actually going on, and they're acting as if they're providing an alternative. Let's keep going and look at this next presentation here. What is this one right here? What is Justin Baldoni's connection to Diverting Hate? Justin Baldoni is an actor and director known for his work on It Ends With Us and has been recently connected to a group called Diverting Hate, but not in a positive way. So just for you guys who don't know, Justin Baldoni has his own podcast, and in his podcast, he gives a very different message than what the people in the red pill and in the manosphere space give. And so the Diverting Hate was actually spending ad dollars, buying YouTube ads and buying ads on Twitter to move traffic from people like Rollo Tomassi to people like Justin Baldoni, okay? Diverting Hate. Diverting Hate is a project out of the Middlebury Institute of International Studies that aims to redirect people from dangerous conversations online space to more pro-social men's organizations and positive representations of masculinity. The project maintains a database of terms in the Manosphere and uses the information to target ads towards people engaging in potential harmful discussions online. The actual term they use is wrongthink. Guys, I want you to think about wrong. Guys, if you ever read 1984 by George Orwell, this is George Orwell. This is training men to not have wrongthink. Wrongthink is anything that promotes traditional masculinity. Recently, allegations suggested that Baldoni may have misused the concept behind Diverting Hate for personal gain. According to a lawsuit filed by Blake Lively against Baldoni, he and his PR team allegedly orchestrated a smear campaign against Lively using tactics similar to those employed by Diverting Hate. The lawsuit claims that Baldoni's team engaged in astroturfing, a practice of creating the illusion of a widespread public support for product, policy, or opinion. This allegedly involved planting stories, social media posts, and other content to manipulate the public perception of Lively. These allegations have cast a shadow on Baldoni's public image, especially considering his previous reputation as an advocate for healthy masculinity and positive representations of fatherhood. The situation has sparked discussions about the potential misuse of social media manipulation tactics and the fine line between genuine advocacy and personal PR strategies. It's important to note that these are allegations at this point, and the full truth of the situation is still unfolding. The connection between Baldoni and Diverting Hate appears to be more about the alleged misuse of similar tactics rather than a direct association with the organization itself. Okay, so you guys see that real quick. I just wanted to show you what Baldoni has involved with that whole part right there. This is my favorite part. So what is Justin Baldoni's advice to men? Because he has his own podcast. Justin Baldoni, known as his role in Jane the Virgin and his work on redefining masculinity, offers insightful advice to men regarding attraction and dating. His perspective challenges traditional notions of masculinity and encourages more of an authentic approach to relationships, embracing vulnerability. Baldoni emphasizes the importance of vulnerability in dating and relationships. He encourages men to be brave enough to be vulnerable and share their true feelings. Guys, remember, the male model actor is telling you to be brave enough to be vulnerable, overcome the anxiety of expressing interest in someone they like. So tell women you like them up front. The good-looking male model actor is telling you as men to just tell women that you're interested in them. That's how you get girls. Share their hearts openly instead of playing the dating games. So it's like you don't have to play the game. Again, when you're a famous male model actor, you don't have to play the dating game. Baldoni advocates for authenticity in the dating process. He suggests that men should present themselves genuinely rather than conforming to social expectations. He shares his personal experience.
Do you see how he, like, even by the way that's worded, suggests that men present themselves genuinely than confirming societal expectations? Do you see how, like, even that statement is gaslighting you?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. Hold on. He shares his personal experience of realizing the ineffectiveness of typical dating behaviors in his 20s. Baldoni proposes the idea, remember this, the experience of realizing the ineffectiveness of typical dating behaviors in his 20s. We'll come back to that in a second. Baldoni proposes the idea of being oneself and sharing all the pieces of oneself when meeting a potential partner. Remember, guys, you're a good-looking, wealthy male model, movie director, and star. You should be yourself. Got it? Redefining masculinity in relationships. Baldoni challenges men to redefine traditional masculine traits in the context of dating. He asks men to use their qualities like strength, bravery, and toughness to explore their hearts and emotions. He encourages men to be strong enough to be sensitive and confident enough to listen to women. Baldoni suggests that men should be willing to cry, whether hurt from happiness or if they, even if they might appear weak.
Honestly, now the Travis Hunter situation makes more sense.
Yeah.
When I read guys,
if you're not like, if you're a man, if you're an actual masculine man, you're angry right now. Trust me, you should be furious right now if you're listening to this.
If you watch his channel is called We Are Man Enough, and if you ever watch any of his episodes, like someone's going to cry on that episode.
Yeah, they cry on every episode.
Will cry every epised. Yes.
Baldoni emphasized the importance of believing women, even when their statements might be against men. So I'm supposed to believe women, even if they say what they say isn't true. So I'm supposed to believe Amber Heard. I'm supposed to believe Lindsey Hill. I'm supposed to believe these women whenever they say the stuff.
Do you think this guy actually believes this stuff, or he's just paid opposition?
Whoa. Tristan, I'm going to fully answer your question. Yeah. Just wait. I'm going to fully answer your question. He challenges men to stand up to disrespectful locker room talk about women. By following this advice, Baldoni believes men can create a more meaningful connections, foster healthy relationships, and contribute to a more inclusive and respectful dating. What he's actually saying is if all men just be themselves, good-looking, wealthy, successful men like me will get all the women, and then the rest of you guys won't get anyone. Got it? Okay, cool. Let's keep going. So this is so we've seen what Baldoni's advice is. We've seen that there's actual government organization that was funding him for him to be promoted. We found that we hinted to the Blake Lively situation. Let's find out more about that real quick. So let's go to the next one here real quick. What is Justin Baldoni's criticism of the red pill community? Ready? Baldoni, an actor and director, outspoken feminist, has been critical of the manosphere and the ideologies associated with red pill community. Though he doesn't directly name these groups in his public statement, his criticism can be inferred from his efforts to redefine masculinity and challenge toxic masculine norms. Baldoni argues that traditional notions of masculinity are harmful and restrictive. In his TED Talk, Why I'm Done Trying to Be Man Enough, he states, I'm exhausted to be a man. I'm tired of performing. Again, guys, if he was tired of performing, he wouldn't be in a movie. When he said, okay, I'm tired of pretending to be strong when I feel weak. He wouldn't start a podcast. Confident when he feels insecure, and tough when I'm hurting. This directly contradicts red pill community emphasis on traditional masculine traits like dominance and stoicism. Challenging misogyny. Baldoni actively promotes feminism and challenges misogynistic attitudes often found in the manosphere. He encourages men to listen to women and believe their experiences, stand up against sexual harassment and locker room talk, and support gender equality. Okay, we had to put the gender equality in there. These stances in direct opposition to many red pill ideologies that often blame feminism for men's issues, promoting vulnerability. Unlike the red pill community's focus on male dominance, Baldoni advocates for men to embrace vulnerability. Are you brave enough to be vulnerable? Are you strong enough to be sensitive? Are you confident enough to listen to women in your life? Addressing men's issues differently. While the red pill community often frames men's issues in opposition to feminism, remember, we frame men's issues in opposition to feminism, not opposition to women. Let me say that again. The manosphere does not frame men's issues in opposition to women. It's opposition to feminism. Baldoni takes a more inclusive approach. He acknowledges men's struggles, but doesn't blame women or feminism for them. Instead, he encourages men to use their strength to go deeper into self-reflection and emotional growth. Do you guys understand how insane this is?
Gaslighting.
In essence, Baldoni approach to masculinity and gender issues stands in stark contrast to the core tenets of a red pill community and much of the manosphere promoting a more inclusive, emotionally aware, feminist allied version of masculinity. And let me see if I have the last one here. Hold on.
Is he like a Chris GQ Perry type? Is it like the same thing, same message?
I think it's probably worse than Chris GQ Perry. But yeah, Chris GQ Perry is a very.
I cannot wait when it comes out like that. Chris GQ Perry was creeping in all these girls' DMs. And he was just trying to fuck all the time.
Not to spoiler alert. We actually know girls that Chris GQ Perry has hit up, but I'm not going to go into that yet because I don't want him to come after me. We're going to wait till more of that is validated. But hold on, we got one more. All right, guys, here comes the best part. You heard all that great stuff about Justin Baldoni. He's telling you to be more vulnerable. He's telling you to stand up against locker room talk. Stand up for women when it comes to things like sexual harassment. He wants you to do that. Justin Baldoni is telling you to do that. And your government is paying to redirect traffic from our sources, including what you're watching right now, to push traffic towards Justin Baldoni. Does that make sense? And I want to say, first of all, I want to be the first one to say thank you to the Biden administration and our government for protecting these women from people like me. Oh, wait a second. There is one more part I need to share. Justin Baldoni, the actor and director of It Ends With Us, is currently embroiled in a significant legal dispute with his co-star Blake Lively. The controversy has unfolded in several stages. On December 20, 2024, Blake Lively filed a legal complaint against Justin Baldoni with the California Civil Rights Department. The complaint is a precursor to a potential lawsuit and includes serious allegations. Sexual harassment during the production of It Ends With Us. Thank you once again to the Biden administration for protecting women by pushing men's traffic towards this guy, creating a hostile work environment, engaging in repeated sexual harassment and other disturbing behavior, unwanted improvised kissing scenes, showing nude videos of images to Lively and her employees, discussing personal sexual experiences and genitalia, inserting gratuitous sexual content and nudity into the film without Lively's knowledge. Alleged smear campaign. Following Lively's complaint about the work environment, she claimed that Baldoni and his team orchestrated a campaign to destroy her reputation. This alleged campaign involved hiring a special PR team to discredit Lively, coordinating efforts to spread damaging stories about her in the media, using social media to manipulate public perception. Additional lawsuit. The situation has further escalated with a new lawsuit filed by Stephen Jones, Baldoni's former publicist. Jones alleged that Baldoni's crisis team, including Jennifer Abel and Melissa Nathan, engaged in a coordinated effort to undermine both her and Lively. The allegations have already had significant repercussion on Baldoni. His Voice of Solidarity Award from Vital Voices has been rescinded. Feminist organizations have taken it away. He's been dropped as a talent from WME. His podcasts and co-hosts, nonprofits, have distanced themselves from him. An episode of How They Fail podcast featuring Baldoni has been deleted. Baldoni's response. Baldoni, through his attorney, Brian Friedman, has vehemently denied all allegations. Friedman has called the claims completely false, outrageous, and intentionally salacious. The legal battle between Baldoni and Lively is ongoing with potential far-reaching implications. Both their careers and broader entertainment industry. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you to the Department of Homeland Security. Thank you. All this time, myself, Rollo, Aaron Clary, all of us in this space, we're trying to tell you that your government was actually going out of their way to ratio our content, to demonetize us, to take the content down. And I told you why I thought why. I told you the reason why I believe this, in part, was because these Manosphere content creators were causing African American and Hispanic men to consider voting Republican for the first times in their lives. And I was completely correct about that. 41% of Hispanic men voted Republican, and twice as many as African American men. In fact, 30% of African American men under the age of 50 voted for Donald Trump. That is the greatest number since the Nixon administration. What was happening is Manosphere content was very, very bad for Democrats. And so the government stepped in and did things like this in order to de-promote things like Fresh and Fit or whatever podcast or whatever other show that you wanted to hear. Because what happened was Democrats started putting Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, Glorilla, and Beyonce and Jennifer Lopez on stage. These are women that have all repeatedly, especially in the case of Cardi B, bragging about robbing men, being glorified. You saw Jennifer Lopez makes a video where she's a stripper who robs men. That whole idea is being glorified. The idea of I don't need no man is being glorified in these situations. Men were being forgotten. And what's happened is these men then turned to alternative forms of media like Manosphere content, which was causing them to consider voting conservative. That's one of the reasons. Again, you're seeing that they push content to a man who sexually harasses women. I want to make this absolutely clear. Your government had no intention of protecting women. This was never about protecting women. This was about protecting their party. That's what happened here, okay? This is absolutely, utterly, and completely ridiculous. So let me ask you a couple of questions for the two of you here. Did it look to you, Rollo, like the people who funded the $700,000 had done their due diligence on Justin Baldoni? Do you think they had?
Absolutely not. And they didn't do any due diligence on the people that they targeted either.
Thank you. That was exactly my next question. If they're not doing any due diligence on Justin Baldoni, do you think they did do any due diligence on us, or instead assumed that we were promoting terrorism, incel culture, and violence towards women when we have never done any of those things?
I can
Aaron Clary is an
economist to you that they
Aaron
didn't.
Clary is an economist who's on a DHS watch list now because of things like this. So Anyway, I wanted to give you guys the foundation for what's going on. If you're not seething, then you're not paying attention. Rolo, take the floor. What did you want to share with us?
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to show you. I did a show with Aaron, well, actually with Aaron Clary about 2 weeks ago, and it was the first time we got together to talk about this. Now, you have to remember that Diverting Hate as a program is multifaceted. So it's not just diverting our traffic. It is actually manipulating the algorithm on YouTube and Twitter, by the way, to promote state-approved masculinity sites. Of course, that was one of those, happened to be Justin.
To avoid, hold on, to avoid, this is their words, to avoid wrong think. Look it up, guys. Stop what you're doing. Look up right now. They want you to avoid wrong think. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to show you, this was the Diverting Hate. I'll put it up here. This is the Diverting Hate biannual report. As soon as this went public and people started picking up on it, they pulled it off. They also killed the Twitter account that was attached to Diverting Hate as well. So the reason why I want to show you guys this is so people can't give us this bullshit about like, oh, are you sure it was the DHS? Look at that little bug down at the bottom there. This project is funded by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's Center for Prevention Programs and Partnership, opportunity number DHS 22 TTP 1320001. Okay, you look that up. That's the grant. You know why I know that? Because I did. I have that actual grant. I can go and pull that for you as well. So here's the thing with let's see, with Diverting Hate. Okay, so as you'll see down there at the bottom, there's the Middleburg University. That is the one that is attached to this NGO. That is what that's what Diverting Hate is. They are a non-governmental organization. The reason why they are so is so that the money that is funded through the DHS, through the McCain Institute, which is at Arizona State University, which is where that NGO happens to be. And so what happens is it goes from the DHS through the McCain Institute to that NGO, so that there's no way that there's no backtracking to the DHS. So the DHS is, well, we're just sending this out so we have a watch list for these dangerous sites. Now, why would we be considered dangerous in the first place? Well, you have to backtrack all the way to right around 2022, like right around November of 2022, when the FBI and NSA came out with a list of words that people were supposed to watch for online, such as Chad, Stacy, alphas, betas, red pill, blue pill. Anything that was sort of like the vernacular of the manosphere at that time was considered hate speech then. And after that, we had quote unquote research by individuals who I'm not going to name right now, but I think Michael knows who I'm going to talk about. But what happens is you have this research that funded by the government that designates incels as domestic terrorists, because if there is no boogeyman, no one gets paid. So there has to be boogeymen before you get an NGO in the first place to have a watch list. So what happens then is you've got incels, you've got these red pill guys. Well, they are worried that these are potential terrorists that can be radicalized by individuals such as myself and Aaron Clary and was it Mediocre Tutorial Reviews and Sandman. It's just a host of characters who in no way would I want to, would I ever have like associated as being sort of this, this Legion of Doom or Legion of Evil kind of thing. So I wanted to point out a couple of things here. This was their vision, and this was
before we go forward. I do want to caveat one thing. The whole situation with William Costello, and he was receiving funding. Now, I talked to William Costello. He said he did not receive funding from Diverting Hate for his incel study, number one. But number two, this is really important. His incel study showed that they were not violent. His incel study was actually not helpful to this Diverting Hate organization.
Whether or not...
Can I say something about, like, in culture, something that actually just happened with this? Have you guys ever... I know this is going to sound like a tangent, but it's very relevant. Have you guys seen The Joker? The first one?
No, the first one, yeah.
Yeah, with Joaquin Phoenix. So do you remember how when that movie was first coming out pre-COVID, they were afraid of this incel violence, that the wrong people were going to like this movie, and that it was like going to promote misogyny, and nothing happened?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Did you guys see the last Joker movie, the one that came out this year?
Yeah, which is incredibly woke, and it was a musical.
Yeah. Incredibly woke, musical, and what did they do? They killed him off because the wrong types of people like this movie, the first movie, and they had to almost retcon the movie.
So they had to erase it. Yes,
they had to erase the masculinity from that movie and then create this new show. So this to me, it reminds me of what Diverting Hate is trying to do. It's trying to whitewash all of the misogyny, quote unquote, and replace it with their own agenda. And that's what I see here.
So I'll give you my overview on that you'll see this happen right now, right after the election. And Mike was right about the intent of this was a concern for young male voters voting for Trump, voting for conservatives, right? Definitely, because the sort of the progressive, wokesy, liberal, leftist side of the aisle doesn't have, and they literally say this: we don't have a Joe Rogan, we don't have a Jordan Peterson, we don't have these kind of people who are influential that promote a more, let's just say, for lack of a better term, conventional masculinity. And they were correct in that. And rather than trying to find some way to connect with those young male voters, they decided to repress it. They decided to divert traffic away from it. They tried to, in some way, keep it down so that they wouldn't go to the polls, so that they would be disenfranchised, so they wouldn't do stuff like this. And how did they do that? They did it through technology, like what they used for Diverting Hate right here. Now, if you can see this right here, if you look at their approach, they aim to target harmful masculinity and misogyny by surfacing positive male influences. Now, look at those logos there of the approved. And by the way, state approved, because it is the DHS that is funding this. It is the government that is funding this, and the government says man enough, men alive, fishing the good fight, men living I don't even know who half of these projects are, right? The Mankind Project, that kind of stuff. I don't even know who they are, but they are officially state-sponsored, state-approved masculinity sites. And that's important to remember, because when we look at what happened with Justin Baldoni just recently right now, remember, he was a state-approved agent that they wanted to divert my traffic, Aaron Clary's traffic, Rich Cooper's traffic, Fresh and Fit's traffic, everybody to these state-approved sites. Now, did they do their due diligence? Obviously not. So if we continue going here, it says here, the government and the businesses struggle with how to stop online misogyny. The government is hindered by political constraints and inconsistent resourcing, while business profit from these engagement models. Despite their efforts to combat online hate, the opposition remains insufficient, and technology platforms continue to be fertile grounds for such ideologies to take root and spread. Ideologies. They're fighting ideologies. If you keep going here, this was their methodology here: partnerships and digital advertising. What did they do? They took out ad buys on YouTube.
Hold on. Let me say this real quick. Often, those of us on this side, on the conservative side of the aisle, and I'm a moderate conservative, often we're like, oh, it's a conspiracy. Oh, these people are like, the moon landings didn't happen. The earth is whatever. The earth is flat, whatever. Guys, I want you to understand, this is a government document we're reading directly from the document. You guys saw the DHS funded Diverting Hate. You guys saw Justin Baldoni, they pushed the traffic to him. He was sexually harassing women and they pushed traffic to him. You saw his message. Any of you guys who have any experience and any success with women whatsoever, you know the advice that he's giving is horse caca nonsense bullshit. You know that you can't, if you're an unattractive dude who women don't like, you don't just be more of yourself and express that you like women to get women. You know this isn't true. That was bad advice that he was giving. The government was deliberately taking advertisements to push you from, maybe you don't think we give good advice. I don't know. I have 3,000 clients and I have 200 testimonials on my website. Maybe you don't think I give good advice. Whatever, if you don't. But like, maybe I'm here giving good advice that is actually helping men, and the traffic's being pushed away from me and Rollo to a guy who's deliberately giving you bad advice and telling you to cry. He actually made a statement. He said, personal emotional vulnerability or emotional bravery is more important than physical bravery. Bro, I was in the military for 7 years. Fuck you. You, dude. That is not, physical bravery is actually harder than emotional bravery. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you. So I just want to point this out. This is not a conspiracy. This is not old man yelling at clouds. This isn't some make-believe stuff. You're looking at a DHS-funded document right here in front of you if you want to question any of this stuff. And if anybody would like to debate the other merits of this, meaning like, oh, the DHS really wasn't involved, or Justin Baldoni isn't really that bad of a person, or this Manosphere content was actually causing men to become violent. If anyone would like to have a debate on that, Rollo and I would be happy to host a Twitter Spaces and embarrass you publicly. You're you're just message me and I'll be willing to do that. Go ahead, Rollo.
Yeah, that's the reason why I'm putting this out here right now. Let me put this back.
I think this is important because while I don't agree that voting Republican is the answer, but like it's kind of what Richard Reeves says. It's like, how am I going to push people to start, seeking therapy and putting credence in the psychological association when the APA demonizes masculinity and considers it toxic?
Yeah. Well,
right?
even
as somebody who is not a conservative, this frustrates me because I'm trying to show people, I'm trying to put different views out there, but then shit like this comes out, which just really pours fuel on the fire.
If you guys want to refer to our interview, Rollo and I did an interview with Professor Richard Reeves from the Brookings Institute, Dr. Richard Reeves. He talks about he was going back and forth with one emailer who said, did you see the American Psychological Association said that traditional masculinity was harmful, and specifically they mentioned stoicism. Richard Reeves couldn't believe this. He's like, this is another one of these conspiratorial morons coming out here and doing this. And then he goes and looks in the literature and he actually sees that the APA says that. And he expresses frustration to me and Rollo on the podcast. He's like, what am I supposed to do? It's like, these guys are saying there's a conspiracy against them. And then the APA does something this stupid. Like, how am I supposed to get my viewpoint across? The avalanche that happened last November during that election in part was due to stupidity like this. The DHS pushing traffic away from Manosphere content, and it was very deliberate. And then you saw alternative forms of media like Twitter becoming X once it was bought by Elon Musk, and what you see with Rumble. You're starting to see these alternative forms of media. Now millions of people are coming to those alternative forms of media to still listen. You can't listen to Andrew Tate on a lot of these other places, but you can listen to him there. And I'm not saying Andrew Tate is always right or he's the answer. I'm not saying he's right at all. What I am saying, though, is there was a deliberate push by your government to use your tax dollars to push traffic away from our content to this moron's content. Got it? Go ahead.
And here's the other thing. I don't know if you want to take the screen off for a second, but I find it very interesting because when I saw, at least like being in Boston, being at Harvard, like obviously, do you remember that New York Times article that came out when it was titled "The Male Loneliness Epidemic"? Did you guys hear about that? It went
I
viral.
vaguely remember this, yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of people were reacting to it, and a lot of women were reacting to it, and a lot of feminists were reacting to it. And they were saying that, well, a lot of this blames women for it, but really this entire thing is self-inflicted, and it's not even really real. So my question is, if it's not real, why does the DHS need to fund paid opposition to different movements to drive traffic away if it's not real?
If the
that
pain
is the
isn't
question.
real, if the pain isn't real, yeah, I'm saying if the pain isn't real, why does Andrew Tate become the most Googled person in the world? Does he become the most Googled person in the world because he's touching into a subject that no one cares about? Or does he become the most Googled person in the world because he's found a glitch in the matrix? He found a subject that no one is addressing. And again, Richard Reeves, who came on our podcast, said the same thing. He said, Andrew Tate was our fault. Those of us in academics did not want to discuss the idea of men suffering. And because that happened, people started doing that, including Joe Rogan and including Andrew Tate, and their popularity soared because there was a large group of men that weren't being heard. Go ahead, Tristan.
Yeah. No, I think this is great. And I think the biggest thing that we're seeing, I mean, I just thought it was such a stupid argument when people would say, well, the reason Andrew Tate blew up is because men are misogynistic. Do you know how stupid of an argument that is? Could it also be that a group of people weren't heard and he made them feel heard? Even if you are on the other side, like I'm not a conservative, but I could understand that in 2016, Donald Trump made some people feel heard that weren't feeling heard by Hillary Clinton. I can acknowledge that, but they can't acknowledge this. And wait, but here's the thing. It's not only that they don't even acknowledge it, it's clear that the government is purposely not acknowledging it because they're funding it. And it's clear that they were funding it publicly with your tax dollars.
Exactly. In 2008, Barack Obama made African Americans who felt like they weren't heard come out, and 95% of African Americans who voted for him. And like you said, the coal miners and the iron workers in 2016, they went and voted for Donald Trump because he made a group of people that weren't being heard feel heard. Well, that's exactly what Andrew Tate did. He made a group of people that weren't being heard feel heard. And instead of acknowledging that's what's going on, we see the very same cope with Andrew Tate that we do with Donald Trump's win. Donald Trump's win, according to Joe Scarborough and according to Van Jones, has to do with people's misogyny, racism, and bigotry. It's not because the Democrat Party gave a message that was unrealistic and didn't take accountability for the mistakes they made when it came to transgenderism and when it came to things like inflation. Instead of that, no, the problem isn't the messaging. The problem isn't the message. The problem has to do with the voters. The voters are the problem. And so that's the same situation here. And so in order to do that, what do? We need to manipulate them. We need to move their traffic and their eyeballs from one place to another. We need to rename things. Positive masculinity is what we teach. For those of you who don't know, you want a definition. Positive masculinity is what we teach. Go to the gym. Okay.
My third book is titled
What Justin Baldoni teaches is gaslighting. Just let's be real. That's what he teaches.
One more time. Let me tell you, all of us, for the majority of us in this space, this is what we teach, okay? I'm not going to say red pill specifically, but just the manosphere in general. And I'm going to include everyone in the manosphere. In general, what do we teach? We teach men should go to the gym, men should be better speakers, better leaders, better providers, and they should protect their family, okay? Protect their family. At no point do we talk about violence towards women, actually worry. It was Andrew Tate who said men who rape women should get the death penalty. He was saying that, okay? Protecting women against violence. Everyone in this space says men and women are better together, other than some of some of the Mode 1 guys and the MGTOW guys. We're saying that men and women are better together. We're saying women probably should consider not covering their bodies in tattoos, not having a ton of sexual partners before they get married. We're saying they probably should eat better food, go to the gym, and keep better health so that they can raise children. We don't say they all have to raise children, but we do point out that the other side is doing things to cause them to have fewer children and less likely to couple up, get married, etc. I'm sorry if you think us saying that women are probably going to be happier by not sleeping with a bunch of men, that you need to protect them from us. I'm not aware of how that is. I'm not telling string them up. I'm not saying you need to punish them. We're just giving a signpost. That's what we're doing. But for some reason, you need to protect women from us. And I don't understand why. You need to protect women. You need to protect women from people like Justin Baldoni. And you need to protect women from other women like Amber Heard who lie about men. Justin Baldoni said, believe all women. Do you guys remember that? Well, I'll tell you what, Justin, if you're watching this right now, and I'm sure you probably are, I believe Blake Lively. I believe her. I believe that Blake Lively is telling the truth, and you did show her pictures and videos of nudity and create sex scenes on your show so that you can make out with her. I believe Blake Lively. For you, Justin, I'm doing that one for you, buddy.
Oh, funny enough. Do you know what's interesting about a lot of these? I like to call them paid opposition. So, like, for example, Jay Shetty's podcast, Chris G. Perry, Justin Baldoni, like these types of podcasts that promote all this nonsense. They never, ever, and we talked about this last segment with the Lily Phillips situation. They never, ever talk about how the pornography industry promotes misogyny against women and promotes objectification of women. They never talk about that. But ironically, if you go back to Perplexity, Mike, what was the thing he was struggling with?
Pornography.
And he doesn't talk about it.
Justin Baldoni talks about he has a pornography addiction. You pushed men away from people who are teaching traditional masculine roles, those same roles that protect families and build buildings, away from those traditional masculine roles, and instead push them towards an effete liberal actor who's a male model who has an addiction to pornography and sexually harasses women. Congratulations to the DHS.
All right, let me run into this real quick here. Okay, so this is what the growth of online male supremacy. Now, remember, this was from the report, but this is the biannual report. So all of the stuff that they're putting together for this biannual report happened about a year before all of this comes out. So bear that in mind. This comprehensive analysis delves into it wasn't very comprehensive, into the concerning influence of the manosphere across different online platforms, including YouTube, entails.is, which, by the way, was the forum that they did the research on that ended up eventually leading to incels as a group being designated as a domestic terrorist group, being radicalized by yours truly. And Getter, by the way, it was supposed to be the conservative answer to Twitter. Never took off. Still around, but is basically the Fox News version of
Twitter. Shout out to Threads and shout out to Blue Skies. Talk about failing social media platforms.
The examination of YouTubers.
Roll, I have a question. I think this I guess we'll call it a manifesto, whatever we want to call this. I think they also like in the same group of the Manosphere, because I also remember this girl did a thing where she like made this giant video debunking the Manosphere and evolutionary psychology. I think they also group like you, who's obviously the guy for a red pill, Fresh and Fit, Mike Sartain. And they also will group guys like Chris Williamson in this space too.
That was madness, yeah.
Yeah,
Chris Williamson's part, yeah.
Yeah, or they'll throw in Jordan Peterson, or they'll throw in other people because anyone who has any kind of like anyone who sounds like conventional masculinity, they're going to throw into the same like freaking gumbo. You know, it's
crazy. Look, I'm not going to be this big Chris Williamson defender. One of my favorite podcasts I ever watched. But the point is like the idea that this guy promotes male supremacy, but even he's not stupid enough to be this ignorant. Even he said it very recently, Mike. You saw the video. He said men need to earn the right to be vulnerable.
Yes, and hold on, and women need to earn the right for you to be vulnerable in front of them. They gave you a child. The two of you work together to put your child through college, and your child graduates. If you want to cry in front of your wife, then she earned that right for you to do that. This first date, Rolla, do you remember that one video we showed of that black dude? He was holding flowers. He goes, I got stood up by this woman again. And she stood me up and she didn't want to hang out with me. And I just want to find someone to love and someone to care about and all this kind of stuff. And then we said, ladies, what do you feel about this guy? And they're like, oh man, I feel so sorry for him. And they go, okay, cool. Which one of you ladies want to go on a date with him and have sex with him? And none of them rose their hand. Because
they laughed. They actually laughed at him.
They laughed. That level of vulnerability isn't attractive to women. And it's not men's fault or women's fault. It's Charles Darwin's fault. It is a function of evolution. And if you want to live, if you want to put your head in the sand and believe something else, which you can when you're as good looking as Justin Baldoni and you're a Hollywood director, you can get away with it. You don't have to use game or understand female psychology in order to get women. You just have to write a movie, put the girl in the movie, and then create a kissing scene so that you can kiss any woman you want. That's what you do instead. This isn't conjecture. It's exactly what he did.
Yeah. Let me throw this one out here real quick. A male supremacy scale. Now you have to, this is very important. I talked about this with Aaron Clary because he's on the list as well. How did I get on the list and what is my rating? What happened is the Diverting Hate NGO created through this organization called Peril. Okay. They created a scoring system of some sorts for like your male supremacy rating. I don't know what you guys would be, but I do know what I am, and I do know what Aaron Clary is here.
Well, I'm sure like Andrew Huberman's on this scale somehow.
He's not, well, not in the top 12. I can tell you that right now.
All I know is that Tristan is higher than me. That's all I know.
Together with the Polarization and Extremism Research and Innovation Lab, it has to be Peril, right? At the American University, we conducted a case study to investigate the viability of executing effective diversion campaigns aimed at a range of male supremacist YouTube influencers who are prominent within the manosphere. Now, here's how they did this. The male supremacy scale was developed by Pasha Dashgard, the director of research at Peril, as a tool to understand, define, and quantify the phenomenon of contemporary male supremacy, specifically in the context of online platforms. This is where your money's going, by the way. Employing a mixed method research design, Dashgard collected and synthesized data from various sources, including online ethnography research, a key informant interview. Who's the key informant? I don't know. And a scale designed to measure contemporary male supremacy. The result was a quote-unquote reliable and valid instrument for assessing contemporary male supremacy known as the Male Supremacy Scale. The Male Supremacy Scale is a 15-item scale to measure male supremacy broken into 3 subscales: anti-feminism, female dishonesty in relationships, and women like alphas, with five items each. Anti-feminism, this is the explanations. Anti-feminism explores how the participant feels about feminism and feminists in general, and more specifically, the role feminism has in society. So you can't disagree with feminism without having some sort of male supremacy on it.
So even though feminism could objectively be wrong, which in many cases it is, if you disagree with the objective wrongness of it,
you're in the list.
Only because you believe in male supremacy. If I believed in female supremacy and was against feminism, then that can't be real, because only being against, because feminism must be correct, it must be right.
Yeah, they're
therefore being
presuming
against
correctness.
it, therefore being against it means you're pro male supremacy. Got it.
Okay, so here's the next one. Female dishonesty in relationships highlights the view that women are not able to be faithful in a relationship and are by nature dishonest.
That's insane. Oh my God, this is from a government.
This is from
All right, Mike, I'll save the camera. I think I might vote Republican. I might split ticket next time. I might.
Next one. Women like,
ticket.
quote unquote, women like alphas is based on hypergamy and the values that men in the manosphere project onto women, and determines if the participant feels that women are only interested in high status masculine men.
Rolo, do they ever, have you read this whole thing? Have you read the whole thing?
Front to back.
Do they ever try to, wait, hold on. Do they ever try to disprove hypergamy?
No, but they presume that it's false. They presume that if you believe in the ideology of hypergamy, you are therefore a male supremacist.
Got it. So they transcribe it as an ideology, they prescribe it as toxicity, but they cannot disprove it. Interesting.
Yeah. Guys, if you guys, it's not crazy that someone wrote this. We meet people all the time who believe in crazy things, okay? That's not the issue. The issue is, like, clearly hypergamy is real. So stating that hypergamy isn't real gives you a better score on something is madness. It's like just saying people who believe in gravity are terrorists or something like that. That's number one. Number two, the idea that women are attracted to alpha traits. This is objectively true. It's like this paper is basically saying someone, and then third, some women lie. A lot of women don't lie. Some women do lie. So the reality is when we express things that are objectively proven in evolutionary psychology, our male supremacy score increases. So when we agree with things that have been scientifically proven, our male supremacy score increases. One more time. The issue is not that someone wrote this. The issue is the federal government funded it. Yes. That's what we have a problem with. This isn't some wacko conspiracy. You're seeing it in front of you. Are you pissed off yet watching this? I told you. Are you pissed off yet watching this? Go ahead.
Okay, here we go. So I'm just going to move on a little bit here. It says we then methodologically evaluated each video based on the designated criteria of the male supremacy scale, assigning scores that range from 65 to 93 in order to offer quantitative measure of the extent to which the content aligns with male supremacy attitudes. Now, this is the scale, has 15 items across these three subscales. So in anti-feminism, 1, feminism is about hating men. 2, modern society prioritizes women over men. Feminists are unattractive. Women are use feminism to gain an unfair advantage over men, and feminists are seeking control. You can see the rest of these here: female dishonesty in relationships, and these are all the sub criteria that they use to score this. Now, let's see who scores the best.
It said feminists are unattractive.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
so the truth puts you higher in the scale. Got it.
Okay, this is objectively, dude. Dan, I just finished the evolutionary psychology textbook, and it talked about women who are feminists are more likely to be unattractive. Like literally, there are studies that show
is that in the book? It's in the book.
It's in the book. It is in the book. Just look it up. Look, get the book. Go through the glossary where it goes about feminism, and it'll show you. It goes over that. Yeah. This is not me saying this.
Here's the breakdown. These were the guys that we're the top offenders. Okay, these were the ones that they specifically targeted with this stuff. Sandman, of all people, on this thing, is number one. He comes in at 93 on the male supremacy scale. You'll notice that they also include the subscriber count in November of 2023 and then at March of 2024. Now remember, this is a year-long experiment. So in November of this year is when this should have all gone away or all gone off, because that's the end of the year-long experiment, because this is a biannual report. This is the mid-year report for this experiment here. Subscriber count 206, and that's an increase in percent. So what they're doing is they're attacking subscribership. They're attacking your reach. They're attacking your impressions. They're attacking your click-through rate. They're attacking your audience retention. That's exactly.
So the lower this number is, it shows success. They're trying to show lower numbers.
Yeah, they think that
guys, look at hold on.
Yeah.
Just look at just Pearly Things. Like, look at some of these numbers. These guys did not get over 100,000 subscribers because they made bad content. Their subscriber counts were growing drastically, and now it's below 5% for most of them.
Yeah, if you look at my watch time, like you get analytics from YouTube every month. If you look at I was putting this out on Twitter, like, and people kept saying, "Oh, Rollo, you're a conspiracy theorist." It's like, no, I'm not. Here it is, black and white. And what was happening was my subscriber count basically flatlined, but my watch time hours and my viewership was still about the same. It was still rocking at the same rate. Only the subscribership stopped because they weren't promoting my videos in impressions, and therefore I can't get click-through rate. And if I can't get click-through rate, I can't get new subscribers. So if you look where I'm at what, 1, 2, 3, I'm at 4. I'm the 4th place. My male supremacy scale is 89. I had, when they did this in November, I was at 218. I'm happy to say I'm at 224 right now. But then at the midway point in March, I was at 221. They see this as a success. My growth, my increase in subscribership was only 1.38%. That's what they were deliberately attempting to limit your reach by getting YouTube and whoever manipulating the algorithm so that nobody watches your shit. And the people who do, they get their ads, and they get targeted ads that redirect you to sites like Justin Baldoni's Man Enough. Then if you look at Fresh and Fit and you look at Pearly Things here, you'll notice that they have an asterisk by them. The reason they do is because by the time they published the biannual report, Fresh and Fit and Pearly Things had been demonetized. So they didn't pay that much attention to them, and they didn't really count them per se in this list because they were concerned with those sites making money. That's what it was about. It was about their money and their reach and their influence. But primarily, they gave up on these sites and put an asterisk next to them because they had already been demonetized. So if you look at the rest of the guys here, you'll see Rich Cooper's on there. Aaron Clary's down towards the bottom there. These were the people who were specifically targeted by this and by these guys. Now, remember when you asked me, Michael, you said, do you think they had done their due diligence? Well, if you look at what they did for each one of these guys, they made a profile. Each one of these profiles was written by AI. How do I know? Well, let's go and read mine here. The Rational Male Supremacy Scale metric of 89. Rollo Tomasi,
white man in his 50s.
Yes,
of course, they had to put that in there.
Known as the Rational Male is a white man in his 50s who resides in Nevada with his wife. His content primarily features him seated and discussing various topics related to the Manosphere. Does this not sound like a robot?
This is ChatGPT for sure. Yeah.
A prominent advocate of the red pill ideology, Tomasi distinguishes himself by opposing tradcon influencers and extensively delving into the concept of hypergamy. That probably earned me the most points. Tomasi's videos often critique and scrutinize figures within the same community, notably instances including criticisms of individuals like Jordan Peterson and Matt Walsh. Apart from his online presence, Tomasi has authored several books on intersexual relationships. I don't know what the titles are, but we'll just keep going. Solidifying his influence in the realm of the manosphere. His blog first began in 2011, and he released his first book in 2013. His content, which heavily emphasizes red pill ideology and hypergamy, has garnered significant popularity. Despite his high standing in these aspects, his channel score is tempered by a low ranking in female dishonesty due to a perceived lack of discussion on this particular subject. Like that right there is ChatGPT. In terms of subscribers, Rollo Tomasi experienced a modest growth on his channel. In November 2023, he had 218,000 subscribers, and by March 2024, this number had increased to 221,000. This consistent following suggests sustained interest in his expertise on red pill philosophy and intersexual dynamics within the manosphere. If that doesn't sound like a chat bot wrote it, I don't know what does. And if you read Aaron Clary's, it's even worse. They just simply don't know what they're doing.
Who else is on here that like
Fresh and Fit is on here,
Richard Cooper. Oh my goodness,
Rich Cooper's on here. They put asterisks by just Pearly Things and Fresh and Fit because they had already been demonetized by the time this report had come out, and I think they even made mention of this
Who has the highest? Is it 21 Studios?
Sandman has the highest.
Sandman.
Actually. Yeah, he's which is interesting. Sandman is like, he does these faceless videos. Nobody even knows what the guy looks like, right? And he's just basically talking there the whole time. He's a prominent white man, MGTOW. I don't know how they know that. Influencer hailing from Canada, is known for original content presented through voiceovers accompanying various images. He delves into a wide range of topics related to the MGTOW. He's huge in the MGTOW community. Addressing them as well, they gain mainstream attention. Sandman's videos consistently score high in terms of effort and engagement. His content provides comprehensive exploration of reasons why women might be perceived as primarily interested in high status men. Additionally, Sandman discusses how he views and feminists and potential threat to society, offering his perspectives on these complex subjects, yada, yada, yada. You can see what they're doing. But essentially what they were doing is this right here is just simply.
Do they have scales of, because like this is only like people who are at the high end of the scale. Do we have, like, how many channels did they do this scale on?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know who. I'm wondering. Like, here's the thing. Like, whatever podcast was a big podcast when this got started. I have yet to see, like Brian and whatever, they do way bigger numbers than me, and even Pearly things. I mean, Brian does a huge traffic. They didn't put him on that list. I'm not sure.
I also think certain things. I also think certain channels, like the way I see it, like the way the right wing sometimes describes the left wing, they have a straw man of the opposite side, and the way the left describes the manosphere is through a straw man, and that's often Pearl. Pearl is like the straw man that they use to like put Pearl, and like they make her because she's so ridiculous and she's so outrageous what she says. They use that to paint a color over the entire manosphere.
Yeah, she's the one the whipping boy. She's the one that they use to as an easy target is what they do. And I don't know why people don't understand when I say that, because they think that like, oh, she's so great. I'm like, no, she's there to make everyone else look ridiculous, because that's whenever she opens her mouth, you can bet that Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, and Candace Owens, and God knows whoever else is going to jump up her ass for it. And she's simply not able to defend herself or to defend a point, but they know that. And by the way, it's not just Pearl. That's a common tactic that they use as well. And so, I mean, the long and the short of this is, I think when we're talking about the political side of all of this, you got Justin Baldoni right now, who is like, I can't even believe that even his publicist, his former publicist, is now suing them because Steph Jones, whatever her name was, she didn't want to be involved in this smear campaign against Blake Lively. And so now he's got two lawsuits that are going up. He's got Blake Lively's, and he's got his former his PR team that is saying, yes, he did smear her. I didn't want to be a part of it. And he still owes her like, he agreed to pay her $25,000 a month for her PR. And she simply hasn't seen the money from it since all this shit went down.
Yeah, because the government's not funding it anymore. Of course not.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because now this was the next thing I wanted to show you guys is the State Department has decided that they're going to start defunding all of this. And thank you, Donald Trump, for making this a possibility. I just shared this with you earlier, Mike.
Funny that they put all of this in here, and 45% of women still voted for Trump. Isn't that hilarious? How that works?
Here it goes. Let me put this out. State Department Global Engagement Center. Did you know we had a Global Engagement Center? I did not.
I did know that. Yes.
Of censoring Americans shuts its doors. The Department of State has consulted with Congress regarding next steps. Okay. The State Department Foreign Disinformation Center, accused by conservatives of censoring U.S. citizens, shuts its doors due to lack of funding. Thank God. Elon Musk has deemed the Global Engagement Center, established in 2016, the worst offender in the U.S. government censorship and media manipulation. Its funding was stripped as part of the National Defense Authorization, the Pentagon's yearly policy. The Global Engagement Center will terminate by operation of law by the end of the day. This was on December 23rd. A State Department spokesman said in a statement, the Department of State has consulted the Congress regarding the next steps. Lawmakers had originally included funding for the GEC in its continuing resolution or bill to fund the government, because remember they were talking about funding the government and shutting it down. Beyond a Friday deadline, but the conservatives balked at that iteration of the funding bill and was rewritten without the money for the GEC and other funding riders, meaning that they were trying to put it in there. The agency's budget of around $61 million and 120 people on staff. At the time when adversaries like Iran and Russia sowed disinformation throughout the world, Republicans saw little value in the agency's work, arguing that much of its disinformation analysis is already offered by the private sector. The GEC, according to reporter Matt Taibbi, funded a secret list of subcontractors and helped pioneer an insidious and idiotic form of blacklisting during the pandemic. Taibbi wrote that when exposing the Twitter files, that the GEC flagged accounts as Russian personas and proxies based on criteria like describing the coronavirus as an engineered bioweapon, yada, yada, yada. You can see this. The reason I'm bringing this up is because this is yet another side, I think, of the whole NGO thing. The reason why the DHS uses NGOs is because it used to be NGOs used to be focused on domestic terrorism. They used to be focused on Islamic terrorism right after 9/11. That's when all of this stuff started coming out, so that they could take U.S. tax dollars and funnel it into non-governmental organizations because they simply didn't have the infrastructure to do it. And back then, when it was about Homeland Security and it was actually about avoiding another 9/11, people were into it and got behind it. When Obama comes into office, he swears he's going to get rid of it. All he does is change the name. It's still there. And guess what? Now we're focusing on homeland domestic terrorisms like Timothy McVeigh. Guess what? Now Trump comes in. He says he's going to get rid of it, only they don't. They just basically refocus the NGOs and rename everything so that it focuses on another boogeyman. Well, guess what? When Biden comes to office, the boogeyman is now the Manosphere. And that's why you have what's her face from CNN. I can't remember her name, but she would say, I guess we're all in the Manosphere now. It's the first time I heard a public a person on CNN actually use the term Manosphere was right after Biden after Kamala lost. And she was just upset. I used it as an intro to one of my intro songs.
I think that's now a category that a lot of YouTubers who wouldn't have been in there are now in there. I think we were talking to Dan about this the other day, and I was like, Dan, even if
it was Dana Bash, on CNN. That's what.
Mike, I remember we were talking to Dan about this, and we were saying that dude, you are in the Manosphere whether you like it or not. You are just in this group. Chris Williamson is in the Manosphere whether he likes it or not, right? So yeah.
At some point, kicking and screaming will these guys be dragged to the red pill. At some point along the way. Mike, you brought up Richard Reeves not too long ago. And I was actually having this exchange with Richard after he had written something on Substack. And he was expressing his frustration with, I think it was The Atlantic, the magazine, The Atlantic. And they had written an article on suicide and young people, so young men and women, and the suicide rates. And of course, Richard Reeves already knows that young men are at way higher risk. We're 4 times the rate of suicide, successful suicide. But when you read the article, it sounds like young women are the ones who are most affected by this, and you wouldn't even know that young men actually.
Can you send me that article?
Yeah, I'll be happy to. It's one of his Substack articles. I'll whip it over to you. But what was getting me was he was finally I could see the lights coming on. I'm like, yes, we have been talking about this for the last 10 freaking years, man. And now he's it's becoming unignorable to the point where a guy who used to work at the Brookings Institute now gets frustrated with the Atlantic for the same stuff that the Red Pill and the Manosphere have been talking about for 10 or 12 years now. And so I'm like, yes. Now I said, I told Rich, I was trying to be as measured as I possibly could. And I said, now, why do you think that is? Why do you think that essay or that article was written from the perspective of it's only young women that are killing themselves and not men? Why do you think that is? Perhaps it's because we live in a gynocentric social order like me and Mike told you about a year and a half ago on the show. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe we were right after all. Come on, man, just little bits and pieces, man. It's just drag you into the red pill a little bit further. He's getting there. I know he's getting. I have hope for Richard Reeves.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Very cool. Was there anything else, Rollo, you want to go over?
No, I just wanted to also to point out that a lot of the stuff that I get accused of being conspiratorial all the time. And usually it's because I'm seeing stuff sort of on the periphery that a lot of people aren't seeing, because I've been doing this for a long time. I've been in the Manosphere for 24 years. Well, 23 years now. I've got 5 books to my name. I got a 6th book coming out. I work with you guys. I do my own podcasts. I've been on Fresh and Fit God knows how many times. I'm not ever going to be red pill adjacent. I am the red pill. There's no way I can pivot to anything else. So I've been around for a long time. I've seen a lot of this stuff. And so I kind of see this stuff come in cycles. One of the things I think the take home lesson from all of this is right after right after the election. Everybody's trying to analyze, like Scott Galloway's trying to analyze why they lost, and all these, you know, people on MSNBC trying to figure out why they'd lost the thing, and they were talking about, you know, the young male vote, and I'm like, well, finally, you guys, you're saying the silent part out loud, and they kept saying, well,
and then
we
proceeded to gaslight men about them all being misogynists.
And so
right?
what they said is they completely denied what they were doing. Because they would say, well, we don't have a Joe Rogan, like his Kamala like bailed on Joe Rogan, but Trump didn't, right? And then you have, or we don't have a Jordan Peterson, thinking that Jordan Peterson is like some sort of luminary of the red pill or the manosphere, right? They don't even know that. But the thing is they're trying to say that we don't have any like popular, we don't have any hip rapper who takes our side that the guys will like get behind and want to vote because Drake or whoever it else is pro, you know, pro liberal or pro wokesy, right?
So we don't have 50 Cent. We don't have that.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing
we
is,
don't have
like,
Project Pat. We don't have that.
I'm listening to this guys talk about this, and I go, no, you know what? You already knew this. You knew this 2 years ago when you started buying influencers like Destiny. You started buying influencers through DNC PACs like Progressive Victory. They knew this. They knew that they needed to find some way to repress the male vote by going in and making the manosphere look ridiculous. They wanted to disenfranchise these same voters. You're saying the Myron Gaines effect, right? Instead of trying to find a liberal, wokesy, leftist Myron Gaines to sort of counter that message, all they did was repress. All they did was ridicule. All they did was say, these guys are dinosaurs. They had Scott Galloway go and say, we don't need a Donald Trump kind of masculinity. We need a Tim Walz kind of masculinity. We need a coach instead of a guy who's like, you know, out there and lifting weights and eating red meat. Instead of, you know, we need Justin Baldoni. He's state approved masculinity. We need more guys like this. Clearly, right? So what they were doing is, instead of trying to find a Joe Rogan or try to find a Jordan Peterson, what they were doing is instead they knew they had lost. It was a lost cause. So they try to buy influencers, which is what they did with Progressive Victory, and then try to repress and ridicule the quote unquote manosphere. Well, guess what? They failed. They still failed on top of everything else. And now the chickens are coming home to roost with Justin Baldoni, who was the guy who's a state approved masculinity site that they're redirecting my traffic to here at the end. And
hey guys,
on top of that, he's getting sued by two people at the same time.
Yeah. Guys, if you don't believe in any of the stuff that we're saying, like for instance, if you're just like, hey, anything that you guys are talking about that's conservative or traditionally masculine or anything to do with the manosphere or red pill, you disagree with all of it, that's fine. For those of you who feel that way, I respect the fact that you feel that way. In fact, I don't mind if you have your own opinions, because I believe in freedom of speech and I don't believe in censorship. My point is, question whether or not it's okay that the federal government has chosen to take other people's freedom of speech and try to push it, try to repress it. Question whether or not that's the best use of federal funds. Question whether or not that's the best use of your tax dollars. Even if you disagree with everything I'm saying, even if all these evolutionary psychology studies that show, by the way, men with high body counts are more likely to cheat, women with high body counts are more likely to cheat. If you think me expressing that is misogynistic, bigoted, whatever, I'm not here to debate those points. Ask yourself, though, if the best use of your federal tax dollars, $100,000 going to Diverting Hate, or the $61 million that we showed going to this other organization. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Question whether or not this is the best use of your tax dollars. And then in the future, ask yourself whether or not this was not only, because the problems is not only was it very much repressive of freedom of speech, it also didn't work. It didn't work. Even for the purpose
45% of women still voted for Trump.
Still voted for Donald Trump. Awesome, guys, man. Thank you guys for doing this. We're going to probably turn this into 2 videos. Guys, if you watch this last hour and you're not seething, you're not really angry, I don't know what's wrong with you. I truly don't. If you guys have a problem with anything that we've said, or you want to disagree with some of the points, we're probably going to host a Twitter space in the future. Please don't, for your own self, this is the last piece of advice I want to give you. Don't be a little girl who sits there and writes nasty little tweets or YouTube comments when we're giving you the opportunity to openly debate us. Come on. Last time I had a bunch of people saying that they wanted to debate me on Spaces. I had 600 people come on and watch, and none of these haters who had been sitting there talking shit about me for a week, none of them showed up. Don't be that person. If you're going to sit there and disagree with what I'm saying, I'm giving you a forum to do so. We're giving you a forum to do so. From this point forward, if any of you guys make personal attacks in the YouTube comments, we just want to let you guys know you're going to be blocked. If you guys disagree with what we're saying and want to expose us, we're going to have Twitter spaces so you guys can come and do that anytime you want. We're not the side that's repressing anyone. When AOC, when she says things that I disagree with, I don't think she should have her accounts taken away. I don't think that guys who think the earth is flat should have their accounts taken away. Even though I don't agree with them, I don't think they should have their accounts taken away. And then ask yourself this one question. Why is one side fully and totally in favor of freedom of speech and the other side wants to change that? Other side, you saw Kamala Harris very clearly saying, what these people are saying these things on social media, who's there to regulate that? No one should be there to regulate that. No one should. So anyway, just wanted to make you guys aware of this. Thank you guys for joining us. We're going to probably do some more reaction videos like this in the future. Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys thought, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
And yeah, if you want to see more content like this, please give my channel a follow. Michael will shout it out in the description.
Go to Tristan's channel and subscribe. Go to Tristan's channel and subscribe. All right, guys? Talk to you guys soon. Take care.